He sees dead people and it doesn't scare him anymore.
Welcome to Soul Guide with Vondie Lozano, a show about past lives, life between lives, and this life.
Hey, everybody. I'm really excited to share with you that we have a very special guest today, Beecham Parker. Some of you have heard me talk about my mediumship journey and my mediumship training. Well, this is my mediumship teacher. So, Beecham Parker is an accomplished spiritual medium with over 19 years of experience communicating with loved ones in spirit and pets as well. He does this before large audiences called stage mediumship and small intimate gatherings and spirit circles, which you've heard me talk about. That was how I first met him. And he also does private sessions. And we'll tell you a little bit more about how you can contact him at the end of the show. So let me bring Beecham into the live stream. And I think I even have you all unmuted and everything. So welcome, Beecham. How are you today?
I am wonderful. How about you, Vondie?
I'm good. I'm just really excited that you're here with us from North Carolina.
Yes,
And
Asheville.
Thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you.
So I was going to say, I think I mentioned to you, I have my little questions taped up on my ring light behind my camera. So
Yes.
I always like to start by asking people just a little bit about their background. So before we talk about your mediumship, just to get to know you as a person. So where did you grow up? Where are you from?
I grew up in southeastern North Carolina, where it's very conservative. So when I was seeing dead people, as I called them when I was a child, or literally I thought they were ghosts, now I call them spirit people. It was difficult because nobody believed me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your first experiences seeing dead people. And we say that just because that's kind of, the I see dead
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
But I'm sure it was scary. How old were you?
Oh yeah, it was very scary. The earliest that I remember is like 5 years old. Is the earliest memory I have of it, and the way they appeared to me was as shadowy figures that were moving around in the room.
Mm.
So I would look at my flip clock. I'm dating myself. There were clocks. There
I
were
had one of those.
So I would peek out of the covers like like a scared rabbit out of the burrow, and look around the room, and I just saw these shadowy figures moving around,
Mm.
and they scared me. They really did scare me, and so I just after a while, I was able to shut it down to not see them.
Okay. And then when did you, well, actually, did you tell anybody about that? Your family or anybody?
Not that I can remember. I was always interested in ghosts.
Hmm.
My mother was probably horrified when I first was able to read and go to the library because I checked out books on ghosts.
Hmm.
And so I always had a fascination with them. And in that part of the South, there's a lot of ghostly activity because of the Civil War and the Revolutionary War.
Mm.
But I really didn't tell anyone that I can remember for fear of being different
Yeah,
and
of
just,
course. Yeah,
yeah,
everybody
not
wants to be
fitting
different
in.
at that age.
Yeah.
So what did you think was going on with these figures moving around in your room?
Um, I just figured that they were scary because all I knew was what Hollywood, what television
Right.
portrayed them as, and I didn't even know anything about spirit communication. It was more I was seeing them then.
And how did they appear?
They appeared as like these shadowy figures where they had form, but it wasn't very specific form. It was, I mean, it wasn't in detail. It was more like misty, but it was obvious that I could obviously see them moving around, the movement, and that was scary to me. So I would try to not look at them,
Okay.
and and then when I was in my college years, I saw my grandfather, as my great grandfather, because I shared with my mother some of the experiences that I had been having. And she said, "Well, you got that from me."
Oh, had she told you about her gifts before that?
No, but me and my sister were knew things before they would happen,
Hmm.
and so I think we got that from her side of the family. And my mother knew things before they would happen as well, and she probably did see them, but she was afraid. And I already was having some experiences seeing things that other kids weren't seeing, so I don't think she wanted to fuel that. I don't think
Okay.
she wanted to. But she did tell me when I described the man that I saw in college in my apartment, and this was before I even went to sleep. And I saw him in detail. I could see he had overalls on and flannel shirt, and I could see. I couldn't make out his face, the details of his face, but I could make out all the other. But so I thought at first that there was somebody who had broken in, and I
Wow.
was really afraid. And so then my rational thinking mind came in and said, "No, wait a minute. Nobody could have broken in because I locked the door from the inside,
Hmm.
and nobody could get in there. And my roommate was over at his girlfriend's and wasn't coming back." So then I looked closer, and it was every hair on my body stood up because I could see where the walls met. I could see through him.
Oh, wow. And was this like in your bedroom or
Yeah.
where?
It was in my bedroom, and wouldn't you know, he appeared right by the light switch. So I
Oh, so you
could,
couldn't turn on the lights. So,
no, I
were
did.
were you in bed?
Yes, I was in bed, but I had not gone to sleep.
Okay.
And so, as a matter of fact, there was some light from the porch light down below because it was two-story. It was a townhouse, and the light was coming through the blinds. Some of the light from that, so I could clearly see that there was a man in the room with me. And when I saw that I could see through him, that's when I had this surge of fear, and
Sure.
that can quickly, for people to know, that can quickly dissipate the
Hmm.
materialization of them.
With the what of them?
The materialization, the way that they materialized is energy as well. And when I had that burst of fear and terror, actually terror,
Sure.
at that time, because I didn't know I was going to be a medium.
Sure.
That
Sure.
that goes further down the road or the journey. But anyway, that burst of energy dissipates the materialization,
Okay. Your
ca-
burst of energy
causes
dissipates.
them to just vanish. They
Oh,
just
they went away. Your fear.
they fade
Got
out.
you. Gotcha.
Yes, they fade out.
Well, and just to let you know, we have people joining us: David Ortiz, Leticia Garcia, my assistant. Hi, Leticia. Hi, David, and
Great.
Leanne Smith.
Hello.
So, welcome, everybody. And if you have questions, please post them in the comments because we will have time to answer questions. Okay, so you saw who you didn't know was your grandfather. You just saw a man
My
in your
my
room,
great grandfather.
and it was terrifying.
Yes.
And then, oh, go ahead. Were you going to share more? I was going to say,
But
and
then
then what
yeah,
happened next?
but then I also saw, I saw them when I moved to Palo Alto, which is in Northern California,
Hmm.
outside of, or north of, San Jose.
Hmm.
And, because my mother's from California, so I moved out to California. Um, and, I saw a man I lived in this apartment complex, and I saw this man down by the pool, and he just vanished. I wasn't really up close with him, but I knew that this was really early in the morning, and there was nobody out at the pool, and it was
Hmm.
also at a time when it was cold. It
Hmm.
was the time of the year when it was cold, and then I saw someone up at my because I could look across and see where my apartment door was, and I saw someone at my door as well, and I see them. I'm starting to see them again in more detail now as well.
At that time in your life.
Yes. Well, no, at that time in my life, I had those experiences, and but I kind of jumped forward to,
Oh, now
to
today. And jumping forward, just to let you know, Jeannie Cutler says, "Hi, Beecham." And
Hi,
and
Jeannie.
then some other people are wondering if you see any messages for them. And so today isn't a mediumship, it's not a time to connect with your loved ones, but it's a time to get to find out about how it works and find out about Beecham. And then if you're interested, you can reach out to him for his services. So
Right.
if someone comes through loud and clear and you want to share something, Beecham, you're more than welcome to. But I just want to
Yeah.
make sure so people understand what we're really here to do today. It's really to hear Beecham's story. So then after Palo Alto, when was the next time where you became really aware of your gifts?
Well, that was, well, I knew things all along psychically. I would know things before they happened. Uh, but I was getting my master's in spiritual psychology from 2000 to 2002 from the University of Santa Monica.
Mhm.
And we would do these processes where we would get in trios, where we had
Oh, yeah, I remember
the,
you talking about this.
being
Yes.
the counselor, the therapist, and the neutral observer.
Mhm.
And that was also at the same time in 2000 to 2002 that John Edward, the medium John Edward, had crossing over
Mhm.
with John Edward. And I didn't know why, but I was really glued to that because I really had suppressed those memories, those terrorizing memories from a childhood. Um, I really suppressed those of my experiences with the spirit people. So when I was watching John Edward, I would come home and watch it. I would get really emotional at the end when he'd say, "All right, on three," and everybody would go, "Ah," because there's such a need. There's such a need for people to hear from their loved ones
Mhm.
because that pain of grief never ends.
Right.
It transforms,
It
but it
softens, as they say. That's what I've been told. It softens. Mhm.
yes. So while in those studies of my master's in spiritual psychology, we did these deep emotional processes, and those really, I would say, they activated my abilities to more of a conscious awareness.
Mhm. Well, and I
Because
remember you saying you were really popular. Word got out amongst your fellow students, get into Beecham's triad or trio
trio,
because you would have so much information for them.
well, yeah. Well, what happened was I would be giving information to the people in my trios, and they'd say, "Yeah, but she's dead," or "Yeah, but he's dead," and I was like, "Okay." So then, one of the physical signs that it was time for me to embrace these abilities and to express them rather than suppress them on my journey was that I started having this buzzing up and
Oh,
down
right,
my
right,
neck.
the back of your neck. Isn't that what Jonathan Edwards has too?
Yes, thank you
Mhm,
for bringing that up
mhm,
because John Edward, when he said at the end of one of his show and people were asking questions, well, how do you know when there's incoming? And he said, I get this buzzing up and down my neck. And I was like,
mhm.
that's it. That's
Oh.
it. So that was more confirmation of the experiences that I was having. But what happened was I started having more and more in those trios. And so I sought out some mediums or this medium at the Learning Light in Anaheim,
Okay.
this English medium. And she was a Francesca Kempton, and it was like boot camp. It was like, get up there. Now it's your turn to link and connect. And you're like, okay. So, and then my master guide, White Feather, is where stepped in to teach me mostly what I've learned and how I've progressed from mediumship in home circle and development circle. And Vondie was in one of my circles.
I was. Development Circle is how Beecham trains you. It's a small group of mediumship learning and training. Yes.
Yes, and there are certain techniques that are really easy to learn
Mhm.
and and easy to implement where anyone can make contact with their loved ones with their own ability because it heightens your own awareness of your abilities so that you can utilize them and not be afraid of them. And Vondie, when she came in there, I could tell she was kind of like a deer caught in the headlights, especially when you came to the spirit circle, if you don't mind me saying that.
Yeah,
But
no, please.
she just blossomed because once you let go of oh, I'm going to be wrong, or or I won't get it right.
Mhm.
And you just got in your stare and then you were there. Remember that?
Mhm.
And you started coming up with some very specific information that you couldn't doubt that you yourself had those abilities, but that wasn't your passion and purpose. And you can say a little bit about that too.
Right. Well, that was how I found out about Michael Newton. And I always say I would still be doing mediumship if I was any good at it. And I know we can all learn, and I appreciate your support in that area. But I didn't really have the natural gift like you did or other people in our group. But in the very end, I also always share I was neglecting my very alive husband, who was a little freaked out by all this. And thank you, honey, for being here today. My assistant couldn't help today, so my husband is being our admin operations person. So thank you, honey. But the very last day of class was when someone said, "Since you're as a talk therapist, you do hypnosis, you probably know about Michael Newton." And I was like, "No, who's Michael Newton?" And you said, "Oh yeah, you should read that." And for those of you who are chiming in, who are from Beecham's list and heard about this through Beecham, Michael Newton discovered life between lives hypnosis when he asked a woman to go to the source of her loneliness. And she didn't go to a past life, she went to the time between lives, and she was with her soul family. And no one from that life had incarnated with her in this life. And then he went on to do 7,000 sessions. And now there's a couple hundred of us certified by his institute to take people to the other side. So you talk to them, and I was so excited and loved connecting with the afterlife, after I lost my dog and then later my mom. It was the only thing that really helped me survive my grief. I always say I was just inconsolable. And so that was when I started to feel better. And so I was so attracted to the afterlife. I was sort of neglecting this life, but I found that my passion and purpose was to connect and help people visit the other side. And you were even interested, like, oh my gosh,
Yes,
you get to find out
yes,
what happens over there.
yes,
So yes, I did love mediumship, but it was not my passion and purpose. And but I'm so thrilled that it is yours. So
yes.
I want to look and see if I have any other questions about. Well, actually, let me look over here because I see a bunch of people chiming in. Hey, Beecham, wonderful to see you. Autumn Mosier, am I saying that right?
Mosier,
Mosier.
Mosier. Yes.
Leanne
Hi,
Smith
Autumn.
blows my mind. Tim Mosier, great show.
Yeah,
We love this topic,
yeah.
Beecham.
We're good friends. Yes. Uh huh.
And Dee
Hi.
Beecham told me I would see a light show from my son in spirit. And so it was my computer monitor coming on in the middle of the night. It lit up the whole room because there were two of them. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, Beecham is an evidentiary medium, which is he gives you really specific information before he delivers the loving messages. So you know it's actually your loved one coming through. So
and sometimes physical mediumship. I have
and
gone into
sometimes
trance
physical. Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to say a little bit about that physical mediumship?
Yeah, because that's that's something that is absolutely undeniable, and it takes fully surrendering and trusting the spirit team for to allow that to happen. And the spirits don't possess me, but they do overshadow my consciousness to the extent where they can literally, and I can feel it, they can literally start transforming, transfiguring my face. And we had an incident with that recently. I did a spirit circle here in Asheville, the first one I've done since I returned here. I had done some before when I lived here before, and when I would come back on
Mhm.
tour. And so, anyway, uh, it this man just completely needed to talk with the person, one of the people that was in the spirit circle, about an issue with a family member. And so I feel the difference. There is clairsentience, and Vondie, you know about that, where clairsentience means clear sensing,
Mhm.
where they can cause me to feel like a heart attack, or
Mhm.
they can even move my body like a puppet to sit like them, or to, like, maybe they used to do
Mhm.
this when they were talking, and I'll just start doing that, and sometimes I won't even know why, and the person's eyes will just be bugging out because the person did that. But in this case, I was in a light trance because he fully entranced me because my voice really deepened. I was aware, but I wasn't fully aware,
Mhm.
and and I know that it was that it was also was trance because when he stepped out of overshadowing me, it took me a few minutes to come back, and I had to tell the people, just give me a moment. Um, but he was able to change my voice, and all
Mm.
five there was a small spirit circle, and all of them said my face didn't look like me. I
Yeah.
mean, it had changed. It didn't look totally like the person, but it was obvious.
Right.
And so, yeah, they can do that. And another thing that I want to say about that too, that same spirit circle, is the man that passed here in this house. I know that he passed in this house. Um,
The house you're in right now?
Yes,
Okay.
he walked down the stairs. We literally heard the footsteps. Now, I want to interject here to everyone that's listening. This is nothing to be afraid of
Mhm.
because like attracts like, and they only allow those with good and loving intentions
Right.
to make contact and communicate. Remember, I taught you about that,
Right.
Vondie, about
We have
setting
a protective
boundaries.
shield. Yes.
Yes,
I mentioned that. And even office hours. Yes.
yes, and yes, you're not available 24/7 either. But these 2 ladies showed up earlier, and I let them come in, and I didn't know why. I was like, well, it was like 38
Real
degrees.
people or spirit people?
Yeah, no, people that were coming to the spirit circle. Thank
Okay.
you for that clarity. And they were outside, and I was like, oh gosh, it's like 38 degrees. I better let them come in, even though they were like 20 minutes early. They needed to experience that. One of them, it was their first time. They were sitting off to the side, and I said, sometimes they can make sounds, they can manifest sounds. There can be physical things, so don't be afraid. Right after I said that, he comes walking down the stairs,
Wow.
and we heard the foot. And I said, like that, did you hear those
Mhm.
footsteps?
Mhm.
The man coming down the stairs, and they were like, uh, yes.
That's great. Well, and speaking of boundaries and protection, in my Life Between Lives work, I always put a little shield around people of light and love, and I invite in all our guides and masters. But also, when I have a medium who's coming for a session, I put an extra boundary around them. And I say, only those who are here for their benefit can come because I don't want everybody coming in because they see an opening. So, yes,
Right.
it's important to set boundaries. And
Yes,
take
and that
grace.
leads me to that there are certain spirit people, and that's what I really call them, spirit loved
Right.
ones or
Not dead people. Right.
spirit people, uh, and that have chosen by their own free will to stay tied to the earth plane, to be in the in between world, I call it.
Mhm.
And I there's a huge need to assist them in making the choice, or have the conscious awareness to make the choice to go fully into the light, to transition. And I've helped a number of earthbound spirits
Mhm.
to do that, but I never forced them to do so because I come from a very loving, compassionate way with them and counseling them, but and I don't force them. And but they usually go once I make the light, and that's just a easy way to do that, and they
Mm.
go.
Well, and speaking of fear, I had a lot of fear. Remember me,
Yeah.
terrified because of my
Yes.
religious upbringing. But I loved it. First of all, you answered all my questions, allayed all my fears. But and I always say only my little dog could have got me to go that far out of my comfort zone. Um, but when I did the training with you, you talked a lot about, that we have dominion and that we can set boundaries. We can protect ourselves. It's not like the movies and scary and anything bad can happen to you. And it's all light and love. And so
Yes.
that was so reassuring for me. So reassuring.
Yes. And then you were blossoming.
Thank you. And look at me now. I always say,
I
"Oh
know.
my gosh." In fact, my husband who's on, he always says, he reminds me, "You were an MDiv Presbyterian youth minister when I met you, working at a church. What happened?" So,
But with those sessions that Vondi can offer you, you can get such a greater awareness and understanding of what patterns that you've been perpetuating, that you may may not have benefited you, and you can have an understanding of what you chose, your life between lives. And Vondie goes into depth, and actually not only speaking about it, but gives you the actual experience of
Yeah.
doing that. And so I highly recommend that.
Thank you. Well, and it is a little different from mediumship. I tell people or seeing a psychic, I'm not telling you you had a past life or that you're visiting your life between lives, heaven, for lack of a better word. You're experiencing it. You're watching the movie and you're just saying it out loud so I can kind of guide the experience. But yes, one of the things people most often come for is why am I here? Why did I choose this life? And then help, help. I need a little help with this life. So thank you, Beecham, for that shout
Yes,
out.
speaking of help, I did have an incident, and I'm not breaching confidentiality because I'm not mentioning any names, but I want you to know this is real, but not out of fear. Just to know that there are souls, spirits, that have chosen out of their fear because of the religious dogma of they'll burn in hell and all this other stuff, and also because they may want to stay here with their possession. Maybe they just got their brand new BMW, and they're driving it off the lot, and some ding dong runs a red light and crashes into him, sends him to the spirit world. So, but in this case, this woman called and she said, "I'd like to make a to book a session for my son." And I'm thinking, okay, that doesn't usually happen.
Mhm.
Where someone and so I said, "So, how old is your son?" "Well, he's 16." I said, "Well, you need to accompany him
Mhm.
because he's a minor." He said, "Oh, I plan on doing that." And so, to make a long story shorter, they came for an in person session. And there's a way to sense, to know uh, uh, if there's an earthbound spirit, if there's somebody,
Mhm.
because they need my help just as much as the person
Mhm.
that came for the session. And I used to refrain from doing what we call rescue work with spirit bound, with earthbounds. But now I realize that they are in huge need too. But anyway, this teenager was being tormented by this other teenager who had been um, raped and murdered. And so, of course, she was really upset. And so she was
Mhm.
taking it out on him. They can move objects, they can pull your hair, and things like that were happening. But the beauty of this was that I recognized that this was what was occurring, and they acknowledged that it was. And they were able to witness and be a part of me uh, counseling her, speaking out loud. And first of all, telling her this is not acceptable. This is
Right.
not your
I
body.
remember you telling us we have dominion. Mhm.
We have dominion over third dimension. Remember, Vondie?
Mhm.
I taught you that, and that you didn't need to be afraid. So
Mhm.
anyway, this turned out beautifully because even they felt the difference, the shift in the energy
Mhm.
when she went into the light,
Mhm.
and then and that really helped him as well.
Yeah. Well, you helped everybody. The
Yeah,
spirit person who was stuck, as
yeah,
well as the boy.
yeah.
Okay, Beecham. So we have a lot of comments over here. Do you ever get riddles from spirit? Messages in the form of riddles? I know
I
sometimes it feels like riddles, all of
Yes,
them.
Andy, that's what I
Mhm.
was gonna say. It's more sometimes depending on how clear the link, we call it the communication link
Mhm.
is, and that can vary by there can be a number of variables that can affect that. The recipient's emotional state, the medium's emotional state, the
Mhm.
atmosphere, but it can be fragmented. It can be like puzzle pieces.
Right, right.
And remember, though, what I taught you as well, Vondie, they can, I don't want no disrespect to the spirit people, but they can be like a pit bull. If
Yeah,
it's,
if
if
you
it,
don't get it, right. They just
yeah,
keep showing it to you over and over. And
yeah,
they use the things you would recognize. Like when
yes,
they say this, you know it means this, you know?
yes, your frame of reference.
Right.
They
Can you
use
give us
your,
a specific one so people know what I'm talking about?
well, yeah. So say your grandmother is coming through and she shows me my grandmother with congestive heart failure. And I'm not feeling it, but she's showing me my grandmother, and I'm and I'm also getting the awareness that my grandmother when she's experiencing congestive heart failure. So then I know that would it be accurate that your grandmother had congestive heart failure before she passed, and to say yes.
Yeah. I remember you telling us don't do analytical overlay. In other words, don't spin
Yes.
it. Just say exactly what you're getting. And
Yes.
one thing that comes to mind when my mom passed was my sister and I came to see you, and you said something like, "I see a single white rose being laid to rest," but something just very simple like that. And afterwards, my sister and I talked, and where we spread my mom's ashes, where my mom was laid to rest, was my sister's rose garden.
Oh my God, I love that.
And there was one single white rose that had bloomed the day we spread her ashes. So by not saying, did she like flowers, or, but just
No,
saying,
no questions.
you said, I see a single white rose being laid to rest. And
Yeah.
that was where we laid my mom's ashes to rest. And there was one single white rose in bloom that day. So it's
Yeah.
just amazing.
And not only amazing, but it also, as the medium, is your responsibility to deliver what you are receiving in whatever way you're receiving it, because you never know, that white rose could have been the whole thing that triggers that person's deep healing,
Hmm.
and the tears just come down their face.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many incidences where the intelligence of the spirit world, heaven, whatever you want to call it, the etheric world. First of all, as Vondie knows, um, the spirit world, heaven, whatever you call it, is not some far off place on a cloud. It overlays and it's massive. That world is massive and completely envelops, overlays, and interpenetrates this earthly lower vibration world. So your loved ones aren't in some far off place. Vondie, how many times have you felt the touching?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like you ran into a spider web, or there's a misguided hair and your hair is in the
Hmm.
perfect place,
Hmm.
or a tickle like something's crawling on your
Mhm,
face.
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Those made Vondie a believer too early on.
Oh, very much so. Okay, we have more questions. Love you
Okay.
think what do you think COVID, why we chose to lose a loved one? Oh, it seems meaningless.
Well, Vondie can probably add some to that too, because between lives, if we look at things from a soul perspective,
Mhm,
the soul chooses how to exit. The
mhm,
soul, is that accurate, Bondi, from what you've experienced, or they, or some conditions that lead up to that, or and it's not just about that soul's growth, but the ripple effect of all the other souls that have
yeah.
come on board to participate in that.
Yeah, and I don't wanna in any way take away from the pain of the
No, no,
loss,
no,
because
no.
we
It's
feel
not
the
good.
loss, even Beecham, when you
Yeah.
lost your parents and,
Oh my God.
so
That's good.
they're still not here with us. But yes, when we have our Life Between Lives session, we can ask these kinds of questions. Why what happened? Why did this happen? And basically, when I've done these sessions, people the harder the life, the more advanced the soul, first of all. So I always used to ask my mom, what the hell, why, wonder what you were, and my mom would say, I would say, what the hell were you thinking, mom? Because she was disabled and had such a hard life.
Yeah.
And she would say, I don't know. But yes, we put these things into motion, and then we have free will about what we do when we get here. But yeah, there's no easy answers for how
Yeah.
or why someone passes, but when I do the sessions and we do people's past lives where there's some really traumatic endings
Oh
sometimes,
yeah. Yeah.
um, they first of all, they say it feels just like a relief. They feel free most of the time. It's not a hard, crossing over isn't hard in any way. But, we get to find out why did they choose to, end it and when they did. And every now and then someone ends it prematurely, and that's a whole nother story. But I want to keep the focus on you. So let me come up to some
Yeah.
of your questions. Um, what is one of your favorite parts of being a medium? What's the hardest part and the most unusual experience you've ever had? And I remember when the police were contacting you. So I don't know if you have any of those that you want to share.
Um, well, I would say that the best part of it is is just bringing comfort, peace, joy,
Mm.
resolution,
Yeah.
and understanding that there really is no death. But I
Mhm.
also want to say at the same time that, like Vondie alluded to, that mediumship is not a replacement for the grieving process.
Mm.
So it's okay to cry rivers of tears, and
Mhm.
for however long.
And I always tell people if you're grieving too much that you ask people to wait because your vibration is so low, it's harder to connect
Yes, I do. I
and
do
fresh
ask
grief.
people to, yes, I suggest that they wait, especially if they're in the anger or they're angry
Mhm.
and they're just really in that place of not accepting what has happened. And that can, and we all go through that. I mean, I've
Mhm.
gone through that too, but you're right. Yes. So I asked them to wait. So so that's my favorite part of it, is that I'm able to be a part of people's joy, and to be a voice for the voiceless. You see that on my website. And what I mean is, for the spirit loved ones have a need when they come. They usually, and they need to express why they've come.
Mhm.
It may be to just say, I love you. It might
Right.
sound fluffy, but maybe that person didn't hear that from their dad
Mhm.
very often. But to surrender as a medium to the spirit person, is their show, so to speak, to let
Right.
them
Right.
come
Well, I
through.
remember that was my biggest shock that the spirit person was really my client, not the person coming for the
Yeah.
session. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what would you say is the hardest part for you as a medium?
Well, the hardest part is some of the is separating at times when it's really tragic, when the person passes. I mean, it's tragic every time, but when someone's taken, like a child, or very
Mm.
quickly, or someone, uh, and to, as a medium, I feel that intense sadness that the spirit person is flooding me with that.
Mhm.
And as a medium, I need to maintain my center and not take that on as my own, but to express what's happening. So that's one of the hard things. And also when there are really gruesome passings,
Yeah. No, I
that,
remember.
I mean, really gruesome, like, and as a medium, um, I have to not take on, I'm very empathic.
Mhm.
So, and not judge, because what was happening, but just to present what that spirit wants to give.
Okay. And then do you have any favorite or especially interesting experiences that you would like to
Yes.
share?
Um, well, I have so many, but when I have those experiences, when they use what's called my clairsentient abilities, is where they just move me in certain ways that their mom sat, or or my face. That's more physical, and my face changes, there was, but so I would say that it's those where it's just so obvious that their loved one is there. I mean, it is anyway with the practical evidence that comes through
Right.
mental, through that. But when it's clairsentient, it's literally like I'll be like doing this, and the person, and then I'll feel this pain, like I can feel, that's clairsentience too. I can feel like I got hit, and then I can feel a sense of dizziness and falling. So the spirit person wants their loved one to know that it's really me, that
Right.
I live on,
Right.
that I stepped out of that physical body, that shell. Doesn't mean you don't grieve over them, but you have that peace. Not only of that they live on, but that it's your time to pass, the same is so for you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It takes away the fear of death.
Yes.
Okay, we have a few questions, and then I
Okay.
know we've kind of gone on a little bit just because to me, I could talk about this forever. You know
Well,
me.
you're the hostess.
Okay, so um,
Enjoying it.
let's see. So let me just look at some of the questions. Does spirit ever catch you unexpectedly?
Oh, yes. And that's when it's like, okay, hold on a second. I'm not available. I do want to give, yes. And if there's any of the people that have been in my circle, there's a couple of people, I don't mention people's names, is watching. There was this incident where I was, we have circle development, home circle, which Vondie told you is how we develop as mediums and how I coach you. And we progress our abilities and our conscious awareness of it. And so I was teaching, I was in the middle of teaching. And we moved it to Saturday because we usually have it on Sunday, but I had a demonstration that I was doing at this place over in Claremont, Kindred Spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And and the demonstration is what I mean to those who don't know is I was up in front of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went there, or when we were, so here we were the day before on Saturday, and that was going to be on Sunday.
Oh, and
And
someone started to come through already.
yes, and usually, like Vondie was saying, I set boundaries. I said, okay, I know you're here. They're people, so you want to respect them. So it's like, I know you're here, but could you just wait because until I finish, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm not available right now. You can't be available 24/7. You'll fry your nervous system, and it's just not good to do that from my own experience. But anyway, so then he just was persistent. And then I knew it was a male. I just sensed it, and a younger male, teenager. And then he literally, I don't want to get too gruesome, but he literally, I felt this intense. First of all, he turned my hands. I had my palms down on my legs, my thighs, and he turned my hands. Just turned. When I say he turned them, when I'm in that state where you just surrender, you just surrender, just, and that's what I mean. And my hands just turned, and then I looked down at my wrists, and both of my wrists, and they
Oh,
can affect remember, they can affect your
yeah,
optic
yeah,
nerve and cause you to see things. And I saw both of them slit.
yeah, yeah. So I
And
know you're going to say that.
I felt this pain in my head too. Well, come to find out, he was practicing his dry run, so to speak, before, because he's the first person that came through. Somebody had gifted the man, his father, a ticket. This is how spirit works. They, a lot of times they'll get you, and when I say spirit, I mean collectively,
Mm-hmm.
the spirit world, and for those who don't understand. And so I knew I was going to him first. I just knew it. His eyes were as red as a stop sign from crying. And his son came through and gave such specific evidence that it was undeniable. And he showed me that, he told me that he affected his television set. There was when you had the plasma, we had just had the big screen. This was a while back, and it was mounted on the wall. And the man just gasped, and he just was like, "Oh my God, I knew that was him. I knew that was him." Even and when he turned the television off, his son's handprints were glowing on the TV.
Mm.
So they can affect this world. It's all about energy, and they
Okay.
can affect this world, and that was impactful. So anyway, that was very healing for him. And to
Wow.
wrap that up, his dad, he didn't say it in front of all the audience, what happened the day before, but he shared it with one of my friends that was there, that his son slit his wrist and then shot himself in the head.
Yeah, yeah, I knew you were going to say that. So, yeah, that's just a hard one to have to experience. Like,
Yeah, but I want people to know that he
yeah,
still lived on. He did
yeah,
all that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, I did have a question when you said energy that they can affect us. Do you hear spirit speaking? He meant, do you hear him talking, or is it energy? And I know the answer to this, but I want you to explain.
Okay, and then you chime in too. Well, there's two ways you can hear them speaking to you in your mind, and that's subjective. Clairaudience is what it's called, hearing in your mind. But they can produce, because again, they can influence our physical world. My mother said hi to me in her voice as loud as can be,
Mm-hmm.
and you can hear somebody say your name,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. That's called objective,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where they're able to actually affect the atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
of our atmosphere.
Hmm.
energetically to create sound. So I want to hear what you're going to chime into though.
Well, I was just going to say, I remember some of it was hearing things, but it was all the senses. You might see something, you might
Yes,
hear something, you might just know something. So you
yes,
could smell something. So to me,
yes.
it wasn't like sentences, maybe sometimes, but it was
Um,
really more them taking over, or it sounds too strong, but influencing your senses. So
yes.
you could
Mhm.
see, hear, smell, feel, whatever it is. And for me, I'm pretty visual, so I would sort of see the movie
You did see a
or
little.
hear the words. So, yeah. Okay, someone asked a question, how long should the person wait with grief? Um
I, and I'll get your take on that too. But I would say at least give yourself time to grieve. So I would say at least 4 months, 3 months. But I leave it up to the person because I actually have had it happen where the person, it really, really benefited them to have the session right. I mean, right after the person had passed.
Yeah,
So
and that was me, only it wasn't a person, it was my dog. And the person asking the question, Sonia, asked about anger. So I think if it's anger, probably wait a little on the longer side of things, but I'll just
yeah.
say, I think I came to you 2 or 3 weeks, but I was, like, barely able to function, and
Okay.
so and I always say you could hear me sobbing through the whole recording, but that was when I turned the corner and started to be able to kinda,
Wow.
get going with my life a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Beecham, is there anything else you want to share that we maybe didn't cover? I think we got most of the questions, but anything else that the spirit
Um,
is telling you we need to make sure and include before we wrap
just
up?
just to allow yourself to feel whatever you need to feel when a loved one or a pet passes to the spirit side of life, and that's what I call it now. My spirit guide gave me that, the spirit side of life, not death,
Hmm.
life. But so to just be kind and gentle with yourself, and also to know that your loved ones are just a touch, a thought, and a dream away.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that gave me goosebumps. And for me, I love it when we have those dreams that I say aren't dreams, they're visits. And
yes,
they can access us in dreams, or for me in that half awake, half asleep state. That's often when I would get the touch-ins.
yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, and that's a lot of times when they visit us is like 3 or 4 in the morning
Mhm.
too, when that occurs. And you have a special announcement that you're going to announce about what I'm going to be doing.
Yes. Well, in fact, I was going to transition to that. So
Okay.
about that you're able to do these on Zoom now?
Yes,
Yeah.
you offer them virtually.
Yeah. So beechamparker.com. Beecham can offer Zoom sessions, which is wonderful. He does phone sessions, he does in person, but he can now do Zoom, which is just wonderful that you can reach people wherever they are. And yeah, your website is being shown. Thank you, honey. Beechamparker.com. And I think those were all the announcements. So, again, anything Spirit is saying, make sure and tell them this.
Well, I just really recommend that if you are struggling in your life, that you have a life between lives session,
Mm.
because you will get so much more understanding. Because if I understand correctly, Vondie takes you to a past your previous life too, right?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
then you can see, wow, well, that makes sense why I'm doing this. And so it kind of fits in with what I do in my life
Yeah.
transformation sessions that I offer as well. And that's where I offer mentorship or mediumship training or instruction, if you
Yeah.
will.
And besides sessions to connect with your loved ones, Beecham is obviously a trained teacher, and he helps those of us who want to develop these gifts.
And also, and the latest thing is beyond oracle readings, and I do call those readings. And so and those are where I'm guided to one of my oracle decks, and then as I am reading that, I get insights and I share more. I take it beyond. It goes. That's why it's called beyond, beyond oracle readings. So thank you, Vondie, so much.
Oh, Beecham.
Joy and
I
honor to walk with you on this path of service, and I just really appreciate all that you do and are continuing to do.
well, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. You are one of my dearest friends. I tell people about you all the time. And
Thank you.
so if you are grieving or you want to connect with someone on the other side, Beecham's information, beechamparker.com, you can reach him there. And I strongly recommend him. As you know, my story of losing my little dog, Mia, Beecham saved me. And I always say that was really the precursor. So I was prepared when I lost my mom. So that's
Yes.
how spirit works. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for watching. See you next time.
Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow. And join us next week for another episode of Soul Guide.